They are actually taking away everything that we held dear and everything that made us into who we are, whether it's our cultural identity, national identity, sexual identity, it's democratic principles. I think what they're trying to achieve is pretty much to transform our free and liberal societies that are made up of free individuals into this malleable, mindless mass where, you know, we can just be shoveled around wherever they, and once again I say they, need us to be, to pretty much serve in their best interest, you know. So let's say taking away the food from us. Yeah, they want us to eat bugs, right? But they're gonna still have their steaks. This framing going on, this gaslighting in the media, the citizens are being lectured to rather than the citizens forming an opinion and the government will actually have to implement what the people want. It's been turned the other way around. Yeah, it has nothing to do with democracy, none whatsoever. They also figured out during COVID is they would have loved to impose much stricter restrictions on everyone, but they couldn't because we are democracies and our elected officials will be up for re-election. And if they violate fundamental rights, if they infringe upon them, if they, you know, impose lockdowns on people, then the elected officials might not get re-elected. So, what they're doing is, with the change of the international health regulations, which would then grant the WHO these governing powers in case of a pandemic, which, by the way, they are the authority to call out a pandemic, and then seize the governing powers. What is happening here is actually providing plausible deniability to the elected officials, because they can say now, we would have never done that. We would not infringe upon your rights. We would not take it away from you. It's the WHO doing it, right? So that's how this is working here. And yeah, in a way, it's also working like that with the EU institutions. The governments in the member states, they kind of tell their people, well, we wouldn't do this to you. We would not come up with this legislation that, you know, infringes upon your rights and takes away your freedom. It's the EU doing it. It's about removing the democratic process further and further away from the people. So the people will no longer be clear on who actually took what decision, you know, who can we hold accountable. And even if they knew, then they are kind of now getting to a stage where it would be impossible for the people to hold them accountable because they never elected the person that took that decision. So that's been happening under the guise of you know, doing something good, something for the greater good. They're pretty much taking away freedom, democracy, and the rule of law. So like this whole climate madness, we need to save the planet now. What they're doing in the Netherlands, they're seizing the land. The farmers are no longer allowed to grow crops on their land. They have to relocate. Like, yeah, you just pack up a farm like you would a 2-bedroom apartment, right? No, it's not working that way. In Ireland, you know, the farmers, they have to like slaughter 50% of their cattle because they found out cows, you know, fart and burp, and this is now all killing us. The policies the EU has been pushing for decades, actually now, goes against the people's interests. So you see, like the what would consider our side, like the people's side, grow stronger. And Geert Wilders winning the elections in the Netherlands, that's phenomenal. And he has actually been around for quite some time, and they did just about everything they could to defame him, to stigmatize him. You know, they called him any name in the book. And here we are, right? He won the elections. And you see that in other countries too. So even in the Western European states, it's kind of, you know, starting.
I keep thinking about this far-right moniker because today, you know, another newly elected president in this case, Javier Milei, they called him far-right. A lot of us, I think, kind of believed this, but today you kind of look at what's being called far-right, and it's, I mean, it's comical how it's being used.
Yes.
Elon Musk is far-right.
Everyone that is not in support of whatever globalist agenda is being advocated for or pushed at the moment is given the label far-right or, you know, whatever. So the last 3 years, the very first big protest that happened against the restrictions because of COVID happened in Berlin, and it was August 20th of 2020. And the vast majority of protesters participating in that protest were actually left and green leaning, if not left or green. And they had a good time, protested, and they met, you know, a lot of people, as you do. And once they came home, to their astonishment, their TV told them that they were Nazis and right-wing extremists. And they were, what? Us? But we're left. We're Greens. We're the good guys. They call us Nazis now. So, and that actually led to the fact that they, for the very first time, probably questioned, what about all the others that have been named Nazis? Maybe they weren't Nazis either, and they were just made out to be Nazis, right? The mindset is a different one in the Eastern European countries for a very simple reason. They have lived through totalitarian rule, and it hasn't been that long ago. They remember, they recognize the mechanisms, they recognize how totalitarian regimes go about doing certain things. They recognize the language, they recognize the gaslighting. So it's not really working in the Eastern European countries, and that's where we actually have the most resistance. It's in these countries. And I have been saying that for quite some time. And from what it looks like, unfortunately, I think I will be right. Europe will actually shrink down to a core Europe, and you will find, geographically, you will find it alongside the Eastern European countries. Western Europe, I think it's done with. There is no way of undoing what has been done over the last decades. Just the mentality of the young generation, spoiled brats, not putting any value on things such as freedom, democracy, and the rule of law, and thinking if we censor hate speech or call, you know, free speech hate speech, and we can just, you know, eliminate all of that, then we will be living in a better world. They do not realize what censorship actually does to a society, and that is like the very first step any totalitarian regime will take in order to, pretty much control every single aspect of a human being's life.